Good morning. Happy April 7th. It's a Tuesday. If you're actually watching this on the day that of April 7th. And I guess I said good morning, but it could be night or afternoon for you. It's 9:27 in the morning for me. And it's also April 2nd, but let's not get into that. So it's April 7th on this daily schedule. What I want you to do today is some reading. Obviously, you should be doing some reading in your LDG book, so make sure you're getting that done. And here is a link that I've shared before that has extra online sources if you don't have any physical books with you, especially because you cannot run to the library at this time because those are still shut down. Take out your vocabulary document and copy this vocabulary word or term into that document. Remember that we will be doing tests on them probably later on. So and even if we don't do those tests, these vocabulary terms are still important to use, especially when you're doing literary analysis for your short stories later on this trimester, or later on this unit, rather. So the word today is dynamic character, which is the opposite of the word that we used yesterday, which was static character. Oops. So a dynamic character is the opposite, like I said, of the static character. So it's a character that changes in some important way. So while a static character doesn't really change, or at least not in any important ways, the dynamic character really goes through the motions to make a better change. You'll see this a lot in literature when it comes to a finding yourself book or a coming of age book. A lot of times the dynamic character, who is oftentimes the protagonist of the story, which is the main good character, if you will, and they change, especially if it's a series and they have to go through a lot of challenges. For instance, Harry Potter. Like I said, I'm a Harry Potter nerd, so you'll see those references a lot. But he goes through a lot of changes, and not all of them are positive, but you'll see in life when you actually go through a lot of things that sometimes the changes in your personality aren't always positive, but they are changes nonetheless, and they are important changes, and they do sometimes help you grow. A lot of times they do, especially for a dynamic character. A lot of times it's about personal growth and just changing who they are from the start, and in a like a really dramatic way. So while Harry, let's say, in the first book started off really wide-eyed and naive about the wizarding world, even when he found out about how his parents were killed and that Voldemort was after him even already in the first book, he doesn't really process this and make those major changes until midway through the series, which is really important and shows that he's making a dynamic character in comparison to the other characters in the book. So, moving on from that, remember to save those in your Google Doc, and let's go into what is theme. We're going to go just review it so that or review this activity sheet, which you'll have on Google Classroom, which is due tomorrow, April 8th. I see some of you already here on April 2nd have turned that in so far. Great. If you think you understand it already, that's awesome. I'm so glad. But don't forget to be doing your other work for your other, for the first week of classes, please. So yeah, let's get into this. So you guys each have your own copy of this in Google Classroom, so you don't have to follow this link and make your own copy. You already have your own copy in Google Classroom, so use those. You'll also see that Mrs. Imlay made this again. She is my source for great educational sources. So shout out to her. She's awesome. Anyway, so let's go into this theme review. I'm sorry you're hearing my dog trip over my computer cord right now. So yeah, theme. Theme is the underlining or central message in a literary work. The theme is not always directly stated in the text. Sometimes the reader must infer, which means read between the lines, to understand the theme of the text. So you've already worked a little bit on theme. I asked you to work on theme when you were doing your Pixar assignments. So make sure that, or I guess not make sure, but this is an extra review of what theme is, because theme is incredibly important during literary analysis. It's the real major thing. And while you don't always have to use it, referencing it is a good way to start working on thesis statements. So, okay, so theme. An opinion expressed on the subject should be written in complete sentence format, can be longer than a sentence. I think she means, okay, this is like thesis. So the thesis or theme, it's something that you write to say, this is my opinion on the subject. This is what I believe from the literary piece, what I believe. It's something that's arguable, so you have to be able to back it up with facts from the book, but it can also be something, or from the film, regardless. But it is also something that the other side can be argued as well. So it should be written in a complete sentence format, can be longer than a sentence. In many cases, it's 2 to 3 sentences, especially if it's a longer paper that you're writing. A lot of times, you are going to be putting so much information into that paper that it needs to expand past 1 sentence. It relies on specific details from the story in order to create an overall idea the writer wants to get across to the reader. Specific details to include the plot. So giving the action that takes place over the course of the narrative. So give a background. What is the story about? That's a lot of times in your introduction paragraph. Moral, a lesson that the reader is intended to learn from the plot's conclusion. Moral can be part of your thesis statement. If that can be your main thesis statement. You can argue a moral, and someone can totally argue a separate moral for multiple stories. So the lesson that you learn, because multiple people have learned multiple different lessons from the same piece of literature. Oops, sorry. Symbolism, use of a particular object or image to represent a larger idea. So I went over this when I was going over the ideas that you can use, the literary elements rather, that you can use when describing or analyzing a film, for the short Pixar film, and for a story and literary piece. So symbolism was one of those. So it's the use of a particular object or image to represent a larger idea. My example before was a clock can represent the passage of time, the movement of time, or just plain time. And then other elements of figurative language. It says see PowerPoint. I don't have that PowerPoint, but I did show you that link, and I have connected that for the Pixar Shorts assignment, so please reference that. And then subject, a topic that acts as a foundation for literary work, is often just a word or phrase. So I want you to, I'm not going to go through this step by step, but this is the example of the story of the 3 Little Pigs. Most of you should know that story. And then the notes on that when breaking down the theme of, I'm sorry if you guys can hear my cat crying in the background. She's really needy. So analyzing this, just, you should have already known how to annotate something. I think you learned that in 10th grade and maybe 9th, but definitely 10th. And you can see how Mrs. Imlay broke down and highlighted the story. You can do the same. You don't have to. I'm not really expecting you to, but I think that it's really important, especially when you guys have these separate notes, like I highlighted this because of this. So for example, The third little pig built his house out of bricks. So, and then the first little pig built his house out of straw, and the second little pig built his house out of sticks that was stronger than the straw house. These are all important details of what specifically each is doing after they leave home to make their fortune. Oh, sorry, wrong one. This is the conflict of the story, man versus man. The wolf wants to eat the pigs do not want to be eaten. So a lot of these notes are using the highlights, but also highlighting the fact that there's differences and the important aspects of the story. So the fact that the three little pigs are all making their houses out of different materials is an important fact. So the little pig saw the wolf climb up the roof and lit a roaring fire in the fireplace and placed on it a large kettle of water. This is an important detail for how the pig deals with the shifting conflict and the antagonist, the bad guy, if you will, in the story. So having those key points in the story reflects the theme, but also reflects how the protagonist or one of the protagonists deals with conflict. So Mrs. Imla, you saw, highlights different sections based not only on theme, but also the different parts of the plot, which we went over also in the Pixar shorts. It's that first part, the elements of the plot, the exposition, the climax, etc., etc. Those parts are definitely highlighted. So the resolution, the conclusion, and then important details throughout the story. So you can highlight and feel free to, especially if it makes your notes clear, but you definitely have to do your own notes, and you will be doing that. And then, of course, she wrote the theme, sorry. You'll be doing the same thing. So now that you've seen the example, it's your turn to practice reading, annotating, and writing a theme statement at the end. Look to the model for help. If there's a word you do not know what it means, look it up at dictionary.com and write it in the note section. So you're reading The Lion and the Mouse, Aesop's Fables, and you're doing exactly what was shown above. You're highlighting, annotating. You can underline too if that works better for you. To highlight, by the way, you just highlight the words here, and then you hit this little marker. And you hit the highlight color, and then you pick one of the many colors, and that highlights that. I wouldn't use a dark color like I just did, but that is how to do that. And then your notes. Why did you highlight that section? Why do you find it important? Is what part of the plot it is. And then you're writing your theme statement here, just like it was shown above here. The theme of the three little pigs is that hard work and determination always pays off no matter what. Making quick, hasty decisions can end badly. So that's what you're doing here. And then the theme of the fable. And then the theme of the fable, The Lion and the Mouse, is, I think, this is supposed to be a thesis statement. Sorry, so you guys are going to see theme statement, thesis statement. They're interchangeable, just as before. And then the theme of the fable is what? Just like the theme of this was the statement that she made. And then the theme of the fable. So this is more of a statement, so a sentence, and this one is more a couple words. It doesn't have to be a complete sentence. This is the one that we were talking about above that has to be a complete statement. Okay, so if you have any questions about that, feel free, but that is the end of this video for today. So make sure you're getting that done, and that's due tomorrow, April 8th, and then make sure you're getting some reading done, okay? So, and of course, don't forget that the Pixar Shorts activity sheet is due today. Any questions, email me. Have a great day.